Then it says, then I lifted my eyes and I saw, and there, standing beside the river, was a ram. It's interesting that he's seeing a river and right next to it a ram. The ram, remember when Abraham went to sacrifice his son, when he was on going to do so, Yitzhak asked his father about the animal that they were going to sacrifice, because he realized that they had wood for the fire, they had a knife, they had ropes, but they didn't have an animal. So he started like to be suspicious, and he asked, and Abraham said Yahweh would provide a lamb, which was a prophecy that Yahweh would give Yahushua as the lamb of Pesach to redeem those who believe in him of their sins. So that's why he said Yahweh will provide a lamb. In Hebrew, seh, lamb, shin hey. But then later on, when he is getting ready to sacrifice Yitzhak, and now Yitzhak realized that it was him, the sacrifice, and he has faith and everything else, so he allows Abraham to go ahead and tie him up and everything, just in case he might move, because it is natural to try and avoid a knife. So once he is tied up and about to be sacrificed, an angel appears and tells Abraham not to do so, that instead there was a ram. Well, Abraham heard the voice of the malach. He lifted his head and he saw a ram stuck on some branches. So he took the ram and sacrificed the ram instead of Yitzhak. However, it's interesting that he said Yahweh will provide a lamb, but then a ram is what appears. So that shows that the lamb would be Yahushua HaMashiach, and the ram was so that Yitzhak wouldn't be sacrificed that day, or wouldn't be sacrificed. So Yahweh gave a ram for that moment, yet a lamb years later, which is Yahushua. So the ram has to have another representation, since the lamb has the representation of Yahushua. The ram is a representation of Eliyahu, the prophet Eliyahu, who is one of the three people that Yahweh promised and that Yahweh sent in several times in history to prepare the people of Israel. So Eliyahu, Mashiach, and the prophet like Moshe are the ones that Yahweh promised that would come back. Yahushua HaMashiach, Eliyahu was Yahuchanan the Immerser, or John the Baptist, and the prophet like Moshe is one of the two witnesses of Revelation 11, which pretty much is the second coming. That's why the other witness is Eliyahu, who is coming again according to Malachi 4. Just like in Malachi 3, he was promised to come, and he did, as John the Baptist. And then Malachi 4, he's promised to come again next to Moshe. Those are the two witnesses of Revelation 11. The point is that when Abraham was sacrificing or offering his son Yitzhak, that represented how Yahweh would sacrifice his son Yahushua, the lamb, as Abraham prophesied. But at the same time, it represents how the last, who comes as a father, therefore Abraham, takes one of the 144,000 who listen to him, who are his sheep, pretty much his congregation, but has to take one, which would be the first one, in this case, as in Yitzhak was the promised seed, and as Yahweh told him, his only begotten. So the last has to offer Eliyahu. That's why Eliyahu is offered as the ram of Yom Kippur. So when you read Leviticus 16, what it has to do with the sacrifices of Yom Kippur, there were 4 animals that were brought to the temple. One was the male goat. There were 2 of those, one for Yahweh, one for Azazel. So one for Yahweh, one for Azazel, male goats, positive and negative, like Yahushua and Barabbas. They fulfilled that part already when they allowed Barabbas to go free, that was for Azazel. Represents the false Messiah. That's why he had a name like the name of Messiah. And Yahushua HaMashiach was sacrificed for Yahweh, as in the sacrifice of Yom Kippur. So the male goat, like the lamb, are connected. Those two creatures are connected to the sacrifice that were fulfilled through Yahushua, as in the double portion. He fulfilled Pesach literally, in the sense that he died on that day, and he fulfilled Yom Kippur spiritually, in the sense that he fulfilled with Barabbas that part of the two male goats and the forgiveness of sins. Then, after those two, there was also an ox, a bull, and a ram, which represent the two witnesses of Revelation 11, the bull and the ram. Moshe coming through Ephraim, that's why a bull, an ox, which represents Ephraim, as we see in Deuteronomy, in the blessings of Deuteronomy 33. And then the ram, which represents Eliyahu. So the fact that Abraham sacrificed a ram represents how the last, the witness like Moshe, being the spiritual father of the congregation, will have to offer one of his children, like Abraham offered Yitzhak. The last will offer Eliyahu. And we see that the ram in Yom Kippur is as an offering, while the ox is for forgiveness of sins, when the blood of the bull was mixed with the blood of the male goat. So that represents the sacrifice of the first, and the sacrifice of the last will fulfill the whole forgiveness and the whole atonement, as Yom Kippur means Day of Atonement. So that's why the two witnesses will have to die on the 10th of the 7th month in the true calendar. The ram represents Eliyahu, and the male goat, in the positive sense, Yahushua, in the negative sense, Azazel. As I was reading, then I lifted my eyes and saw, and there standing beside the river was a ram which had two horns. Interesting, beside the river, because the Hebrews are those who cross the river. That's what Hebrew pretty much means. Those who crossed, meaning the river. So, because of Abraham and what he did, and other reasons. So, beside the river was a ram which had two horns, and the two horns were high. That is the Persian and the Medes, Cyrus and Darius. So, and the two horns were high, but one was higher than the other. Cyrus was higher than Darius. The kingdom of Persia was greater than the Medes. That's why the Persian Empire, the part of the Persians, represents the chosen few, and the Medes represents the many. Both will make the kingdom of Yahweh, kings and servants, who will also rule over the nations, but will serve in the temple as the vessels of the temple, as the blood in the body. The fact that it has two horns, say ram, two horns, that in the positive sense can be interpreted as the two witnesses. Once again, I repeat, that's why one higher than the other, like the witness like Moshe higher than the witness like Eliyahu, just like Ephraim higher than Menashe, was a ram which had two horns, and the two horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher one came up last, and the higher one came up last, which would confirm what I was saying regarding that it represents the last one, the second coming of Yahweh. And the higher one came up last. And that is why also in Daniel we see that Darius appears as the one who conquered Babylon, but then we see that Cyrus appears and Yahweh uses him for a bunch of other things like building the temple, or at least starting the process. Verse 4, I saw the ram pushing westward. I saw the ram pushing westward, northward, and southward, so that no animal could withstand him, nor was there any that could deliver from his hand. But he did according to his will and became great. So the ram was pushing west, so that means that was coming from the east, as the strength that Yahweh gives us comes from Yahushua, who manifested in the east. Israel. Not only that, um, like I said, Eliyahu represents the ram. Eliyahu also, the first two times he has manifested, did it from the east. That's why it is written also that salvation comes from the Yahudim, and Yahudah is in the east. So, for instance, like the gospel, well, like they call it the gospel, but really the good news started in the east and went throughout the whole world, like Yahushua said that it should. So I saw the ram pushing westward, northward, and southward, so that no animal could withstand him, nor was there any that could deliver from his hand, but he did according to his will and became great.